Baseball world by running away with the National League's Eastern Division. Series wins against the Dodgers and Cubs added up to an electrifying postseason run, but in the end the Mets fell short on baseball's biggest stage. Determined to take that final step, the Mets have entered spring training with a few new faces, some familiar ones, a very welcome return, and a young staff that's the talk of baseball. Expectations are sky high as the Mets begin 2016 in their quest for baseball's ultimate prize. At Tradition Field in Port St. Lucie, Florida, it's the Mets exhibition home opener as they play the Miami Marlins. Spring training on SNY is presented by Citi. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Citi, proud sponsor of the New York Mets. By Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com for a free rate quote. By Mazda, driving matters. And by Verizon. Well, we are back in the warm weather. Spring training 2016. And a little different vibe at Tradition Field this year. This year, the Mets return to spring training as defending National League champions and looking to take that final step with a big piece in the house. Pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Port St. Lucie. Gary Cohen, Keith Hernandez, Ron Darling back with you. Our first spring training telecast, our 11th year on SNY, and we couldn't be happier to be with you. The Mets come into spring training as 2015 National League champions and hoping to get that final step and overcome the World Series as well and bring home a World Series trophy in 2016. One thing the Mets knew going into the offseason was that they were going to have potentially one of the best pitching staffs in history.
And this pitching staff, which pitched deep into October, has gone through a place where they've gone to innings that they've never gone before. For you folks at home, WHIP is the great number. Walks, hits per innings pitched, anything around 1 is exceptional. All those numbers off the charts. When I was a kid, I used to spend a great amount of time watching the Baltimore Orioles pitching staff. I was lucky enough to be able to be on a very good pitching staff in the 80s, especially 86 and 88. I now get a chance each and every day to watch what I think could be one of the greatest pitching staffs ever assembled. If there's 15 to 20 young pitchers in baseball, the Mets, after the All-Star break, when Zach Wheeler comes back, could have the 5 finest young pitchers in all of baseball.
So that was a given going into the offseason, and it is now ready to go as those guys will pitch starting next week here in spring training, which was more of a concern going into the offseason was the Mets offense. They missed on Ben Zobrist. Daniel Murphy leaves. They bring in Neil Walker and Asdrubal Cabrera. But then the big prize at the end of the offseason was the re-signing of Yoenis Cespedes, and that changes everything.
It certainly does. It gives the Mets that big bat, the big cleanup bat in the middle of the order. David Wright will be hitting third in front of him, and Duda with protection from the left side behind. You knew that this ball club last year was languishing at around 500, could not score runs, and when Cespedes came and joined this ball club, after around his first 2 weeks, he caught fire. 17 home runs and 44 RBIs in 57 games. I never saw anybody do what he did for this Met team. He literally put them on his back and carried them to the National East flag with big RBIs late, big home runs late. He was way out there all winter long. I didn't think the Mets were going to get him, and lo and behold, they got him, and this was a big, big boost for this ball club.
And Cespedes in his first spring training as a Met has created a lot of excitement on the field and off the field as well. It's the Mets and the Marlins, spring training baseball. All the action coming up on SNY. Logan Verrett, who proved to be an able spot starter and reliever for the Mets last year, will get the start this afternoon for New York before a sellout crowd at Tradition Field. Also scheduled to take the hill, Buddy Carlisle coming back from hip surgery. Zach Thornton, who came over in the Ike Davis trade. Jerry Blevins coming back from a broken arm last year. All scheduled to take the mound this afternoon. Let's send it down to the fourth member of our crew, Steve Gelb. Steve?
Gary, after last season's success, a bit of a different vibe in Mets camp this year. More of a we know we can versus last year's we think we can. There was a lot of talk in camp last year about taking that next step, but each bit of talk came with a bit of a qualifier as well. What will Matt Harvey look like after a season off from Tommy John surgery? Noah Syndergaard, maturity questions. Who can forget that lunch incident? Steven Matz hadn't pitched an inning in AAA. And, of course, Wilmer Flores, so many questions about whether or not he could be the full-time shortstop for this team. Fast forward a year now, though, those questions have been answered. Matt Harvey went above and beyond last season. Noah Syndergaard, Steven Matz, they certainly established themselves, and now Wilmer Flores, more of a utility guy role, definitely strengthens that bench as well. And, oh, by the way, Yoenis Cespedes is back, and Jeurys Familia turned himself into one of the premier closers in the major leagues. So whereas last year there was a lot of talk, this year more of a quiet confidence that they know they can do it. Gary?
Well, they have been to the mountaintop. Now they hope to clear the mountaintop. And it all starts right here in Port St. Lucie. It's the Mets and the Marlins spring training baseball. First pitch is coming right up. Check out the Marlins starting lineup this afternoon, brought to you by Toyota. Don Mattingly, the new skipper of the Marlins, not here. They're playing a split squad game today, and so only a couple of starters in the lineup, Marcell Ozuna and Christian Yelich. Chris Johnson battling for a job, so is Derek Dietrich. Bunch of minor leaguers in there as well for the Marlins, who won 71 and lost 91 last year. A big house on hand. A lot of traffic getting into the ballpark today here at Tradition Field.
Gary, I was telling you before, this reminds me so much of 1988, the first time the Mets were here. There was a fever pitch because they had a good ball club to watch. Same in 2016.
Things change quickly in this game, don't they?
They do.
All of a sudden, the Mets have ascended to a new position, and Terry Collins was able to enjoy the fruits last year after so many years of struggle, getting to the postseason for the first time and taking the Mets to the World Series. And on an 80-degree afternoon, partly cloudy skies, Mets will play their second exhibition game. They played up in Vieira yesterday against the Nationals, who beat them 9-4. Of course, the Nationals have a new manager in Dusty Baker, and they have a big chip on their shoulders this year.
Well, they certainly do. They were a very disappointing ball club last year, underachieving club. I think it's one of the best pickups in the offseason, Gary, and it wasn't a player. It's picking up Dusty Baker. He's such a player manager. He exudes confidence. I think that he's going to really be a positive force for that National Ball Club.
What did you say yesterday? They came out and they were running like every pitch?
After the first base runner got on, Ben Revere ran first pitch. Bryce Harper got on first, ran first pitch. They ran 8 times in the first inning, which I thought was really a message that Dusty and the Nationals were sending to the Mets.
Well, there's the wins for the Mets, 90 and 72. Washington only amassed 83. We saw a shot of Logan Verrett. We could talk all the time about the Mets having 2 seasons. Well, so did Logan Verrett, a guy that was let go by the Mets, picked up by the Rangers, started with the team out of spring training, didn't have a lot of success, back to the Mets, went to Las Vegas, worked on his craft, came up his first relief appearance against Toronto. He was unbelievable, 4 Ks in 2 innings with that great slider, and that's something they hope to see a lot this year.
And really the highlight of his season was the start he made at Coors Field, the first Mets starter ever to go 8 innings at Coors Field on a day when they were strapped for pitching, and he was brilliant.
That was a big game. That was August 23rd, Garrett, that he pitched that brilliant ball game.
8 innings, 1 run in Coors Field.
8 strikeouts.
So Verrett gets the start today. As we mentioned, the frontline starters for the Mets, the 5 regular starting pitchers will start action on Monday. Miguel Rojas leads things off for the Marlins, and Verrett's first pitch misses outside, and we're underway. Rojas played for the Marlins last year for about a half a season, had 142 at-bats, the backup for Nadeni Echeverria.
You know what I watch for early in spring training? Not the players. Every single season there seems to be a mandate for the umpires on how to call strikes and balls, and I like to get a gauge on what they're going to do. And if they're not giving you the low pitch or the outside pitch, you feel like that's what they're trying to do.
Chris Conroy, the home plate umpire today. We have 3 big league umpires amongst the quartet. And Rojas fouls off the fastball, 1-2. Logan Verrett, now 25 years old. There you see everybody in the dugout. Everybody learned the lesson last spring after Syndergaard, pardon the expression, lost his lunch.
What you have to do, if you're stealth, you hang out, you make sure everyone sees you, and then you kind of slip out the back door.
You pitchers have too much time on your hands.
1-2 from Verrett. It's 2-2 to Rojas. Well, there's Bartolo Colon. We'll see him pitch on Monday here against the Tigers. We'll have that game for you.
I think a welcome addition. I'm glad that the Mets re-signed him.
And I think he's happy with that as well, even though he knows that if everybody stays healthy, he'll only have a half a season of the rotation.
Yeah, and I know that getting wins, especially from where he's from, maybe to be have the most wins at some point in his career. But you know what? He sucked it up last year when they asked him to go to the pen. What a job he did in the postseason.
Yes, he did. Yep.
No one a bigger fan of mine than I am of Bartolo.
He's going to tip on a snowstorm here.
Neil Walker handles his first chance as a Met and throws out Miguel Rojas for the first out.
Yeah, and that'll be a nice little segue right into the Mets defense, brought to you by Lexus. Lagares in much better shape this year, starting in center field. Diaza is kind of like the odd man out. They got him before they got Cespedes back, due to, of course, Walker's your new second baseman. You got a new shortstop in Esdrubal Cabrera and Darno behind the plate.
I cannot do games if you're doing segues all season long.
Okay, I'll
wait till he gets his telestrator back.
Oh,
good breaking ball by Verrett to start off Marcell Ozuna. Ozuna had a checkered year last year, wound up in the minor leagues, and had a contentious battle with management about being kept in the minor leagues. But this is a guy that they still feel is a budding star at age 25.
Well, he had a good year 2 years ago, and they had big expectations for Ozuna going into last season. And you saw the 10 home runs, the 44 RBIs is not what they expected from him. They were expecting 20 plus, maybe 90 plus RBI. It didn't happen.
Well, remember that one game in Miami where he was responsible defensively for the Mets losing the game, threw out Neuenhuis and Wright to win that game. Kirk is going to be the center fielder for the Brewers, right? Well, right now, he's the number one.
Competing for that anyway.
Yeah.
Well, the Brewers are one of those teams, and there are several of them in the National League that have taken steps backward with an eye toward later taking major steps forward, trying to follow the Chicago Cubs, Houston Astros plan. You got the Brewers, the Reds, the Braves, the Phillies.
What's it called, Keith? The Panzer? What's the tank that you always refer to?
The Panzer, yes.
It's called tanking.
Okay. Oh, that's right. No tanking.
Well, you're not allowed to say tank.
Oh, we can say it.
Rebuilding.
Okay.
Ozuna is a cut and slasher. He is a very dangerous hitter. Got to be very careful with him. I think he's got a chance to be a pretty good player. We'll see what he does this year. He doesn't hurt you defensively, as Ron said. It's a nice outfield that the Marlins have.
You know, they've got so many good pieces, the Marlins do, and you thought going into last year that it might pay off. That's drilled to left field, and Ozuna's got an extra base hit. Maybe. And he's going to pull up and settle for a single as Ty Kelly gets it back in quickly. So a one-out single for Ozuna.
Hanging breaking ball. Just got it away enough. Ripped it into left field.
There's the grip of the slider. And just a hanger right in the middle of the plate. Nice swing by Ozuna.
So now Christian Yelich, part of that talented young outfield with Ozuna and Giancarlo Stanton. And it's axiomatic that for the Marlins to succeed, Stanton has to stay healthy, but so does this guy.
Yes. Because
Yelich had back problems last year. He's only 24. He had some more back spasms just the other day, and it makes you wonder if that's going to be an ongoing issue for him.
He's got a beautiful swing. It's a very strong wrists. Really snaps the bat through. I love his swing.
I think his hands are higher than they were in the past, and they're also in front of him. And remember now, they got Mr. Bonds over there, so some things might be changing for some of these young hitters.
Barry Bonds, the new hitting coach for the Marlins. I think that move surprised a lot of people. Most of the brain trust for the Marlins is back in Jupiter for their other game today, including Bonds.
So if we see half of these guys choking up at some point, we know that Bonds has had a big influence.
How about armor on their
That's right.
on their elbows? One on and one out. Just getting started here in Port St. Lucie on an 80-degree afternoon. Did I mention it was 80 degrees? Slowly hit. Walker waits on it. Cabrera takes the flip and turns it over. And the Mets turn a double play. 4-6-3 to get Verrett through the opening inning. Mets come to bat with no score. Slimmed down version of Juan Lagares getting set to lead off for the Mets in the home first inning.
Well,
and that leads us to our Geico Mets starting lineup. See if we can all seg, Keith. Cabrera in the 2-hole. Cespedes DHing today. Duda and Walker and Darno all in there. Alejandro De Aza will play right field today. And then a couple of minor leaguers. TJ Rivera from the Bronx. And Ty Kelly rounding out the lineup against lefty Justin Nicolino.
Well, Justin Nicolino, originally drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays. Remember, he came in that huge trade where Burley and Reyes and others went over to Toronto. And they're hoping this left-hander figures it out.
Well, he debuted last year with 7 scoreless innings in his first game back in June of last year against the Reds. It's a pretty good changeup. Lagares takes a strike. 1-1.
5-4.
Cabrera on deck.
4 ERA, not bad.
Only 20 walks in 74 innings. And he hits the changeup Lagares does into right field for a leadoff hit. Takes a wide turn. He's going to challenge Ozuna, and he makes it safely. Aggressive base running by Juan Lagares to start the afternoon.
And caught napping Marcell Ozuna here. Spring training, it's really unforgivable. You just don't make a play like this. Oh, he Fox didn't send me a dozen there. He kind of nonchalanted on that ball, was hit harder, and then Lagares is always hustling.
With the signing of Cespedes and De Aza, they have papers down where Lagares lives.
It's going to be very interesting to see how Terry Collins uses his outfield this year, because last year down the stretch after they got Lagares, it became pretty much a set deal that Lagares would play against lefties, would come in late for defense, and Conforto would come out. Don't know that that necessarily is going to happen this year, and Lagares is going to have to fight for playing time as Conforto plays more and more against left-handers.
Here's a thought, guys. I don't know what you think about it. Curtis struggled occasionally against left-handed pitching last year. Do you think about Lagares or Cespedes moving them around in the outfield so against tough lefties Curtis takes a seat?
Well, I know Conforto is going to take balls in right field, so I don't think they're going to play Cespedes over there, at least not at first. Cabrera whacks one the other way, and this time Ozuna is equal to it, and Lagares holds it second. So Asdrubal Cabrera in his first at bat hits the ball hard. And now the noted vehicle enthusiast, equine enthusiast, porcine
devourer.
He has certainly made the biggest splash of any Met in spring training, and that would be Yoenis Cespedes.
Yes, and he is not investing in those 57 Chevys.
Nobody can. He can feed all of Port St. Lucie. Nice pork dinner.
As you've read in the papers, they're Kevin Long trying to get Cespedes to use the opposite field, go up the middle more. It's much the same thing that happened with Puig with the Dodgers. He came up, they said he used right field, hit with power, became pull happy, and Puig's game has gone downhill. They don't want this to happen with Cespedes. They want him to go up the middle. He's such a strong guy. 5'10", Gary, 220 pounds. That's a big man right there. Very strong, can hit the ball out to all fields.
Last year, 35 home runs combined between the Tigers and the Mets. 105 runs batted in.
I know you'd have to Google it at home. You and I wouldn't have to, Keith or Gary. But Orlando Cepeda, he reminds me of the body, the way he's built. Just 5'10", 220, like you said. Strong.
Cepeda was the baby bull.
Yeah. Right. But Cespedes can run. Cepeda wasn't a fast man on the bases. Cespedes can fly. I think the best runner in the ball club.
Pickoff try, and Lagares gets back.
I mean, there's so many things that Cespedes brings to every game. He's not just an offensive player. He plays good defense, has a great arm, and he's a terrific base runner.
You know, when the offseason began, there was every reason to think that Cespedes was going to get a $150 million deal from somebody. As he bounces one to short, Lagares will advance, and Rojas throws him out. And it never materialized that way. And, you know, it came to pass that Cespedes fell back into the Mets' laps, but I don't think they could have planned for it that way. And yet at the end of the day, they come out smelling like a rose.
And the thing was, they weren't going to give him a 7-year deal, what he was looking for. And I tell you what, I don't care who you are. I mean, unless you're Barry Bonds, giving 7 years is an awful long term for a contract.
Well, here's Lucas Duda. Lucas had such an odd year last year. His numbers wound up very similar to the year before when he hit 30 home runs. But his power and his production came in distinct stretches. Had that stretch where he had 9 home runs in 8 games as the Mets were starting to come alive in July. Had the stretch late in the year when he hit 5 home runs in 4 games, including the grand slam and the clincher, and wound up with 27 home runs for the year. And yet there were long periods of time when Lucas had a brownout offensively. Hits it into the shift, and that retires the side. So a leadoff hit for Lagares. No score after 1 in Division 2. Second inning with no score. Logan Verrett facing Chris Johnson, the former Astro and Brave, and he takes a fastball for a strike. Johnson finished last year as a Cleveland Indian and finished well.
Very unorthodox swing at the plate. Almost won a batting title a couple years ago. Faded late in September.
He's had such an interesting career because he's had a couple of really good seasons, and then he's had years when he has not fared nearly as well.
With his swing, there's so many moving parts. It just seems to me it's be difficult to maintain any sort of consistency. But I've learned a long time ago. I've seen a lot of unorthodox swings and 300 hitters, so it's all about squaring up.
The shallow right, and De Aza comes in again. One away. So Johnson retired, and now Derek Dietrich. Dietrich had about 250 at-bats last year for the Marlins, hit 10 home runs. They played him in the outfield a lot late in the year. Came up as a second baseman. They're trying him out at first as well. The everyday lineup for the Marlins is potentially a very impressive one.
Yes.
Know about the outfield. Of course, you got the batting champion D. Gordon returning at second base, and Echeverria, a terrific shortstop. But first, third, and catcher, those are iffier positions for them.
Well, they're hoping that the first baseman, the big, strong left-hand hitter, with Justin Bour, can. They need a big power bat there to go with Stanton.
Duda has trouble with it. Recovers in time, but not quite in time, as Verrett was off the bag, according to Angel Hernandez. And so that'll be charged an error on Duda. Looks like he would have had him had Verrett been on first base.
Well, Lucas didn't have much movement to the right there. He could have gotten in front of that ball, opted to play the backhand, and the ball came up. That's an E3 on your scorecard.
Keith, what did you think about Lucas's comments early in camp about how his throw in Game 5 haunted him all winter?
I think he's overly tough on himself. Certainly a good throw. Maybe had a chance. That play had so many things going wrong. You had David Wright going into the hole where he should have stayed anchored at third base to keep the runner close and not allow him to come that far down the line. And David's throw was up and to the right field side of first base. So Lucas had to go and make the high catch and then turn and pivot and throw home. Lucas is very, he's just a very conscientious kid. I think he feels bad. But there was a couple bad things happen on that play that was a decider in that final game.
And even if he makes the play, it's only Game 5, and they're still behind in the series.
I do find it interesting, though, that the base runner came out and said that his advanced scout had told him that David Wright throws a little rainbow over there to first base and try to take advantage of it. That's stuff you usually keep in-house. But
well, Hosmer was the runner.
Yeah. Right.
And the rule is, even on a routine ground ball, if you're the runner at third base, you take your lead. If you look at the third baseman right now, Rivera, see how far off the bag he is at third. That's how big your lead can get. So in a ground ball in the hole, you can come down the line as far as the third baseman is going into the hole to make the play. No one's going to be able to force you back to the bag. Then you can race home. Hosmer on that play did not come down the line far enough. He made a very alert play, but he could have come 10 more feet down the line, and then David would have had to look at him and go, uh-oh, I made a big mistake here, and you'd have had to eat the ball.
It's almost as though the idea of trying to score for Hosmer didn't kick in until he took a beat. That's it deep to left by Destin Hood, and that's gone. A 2-run homer for Destin Hood to give the Marlins a 2-0 lead. So Hood, with 10 home runs in the minor leagues last year in AA and AAA in the Philly and Cleveland organizations, puts the Marlins on the board with a 2-run homer.
Hanging breaking ball again, I believe, Ronnie. Oh, fastball. Right in the wheelhouse.
And there is not a following wind out to left field. The wind is blowing out from left toward right today, so that was well struck by Hood. Now Austin Nola takes a strike.
I thought that it was a breaking ball because it didn't have a lot on it. For you folks at home, as far as the breaking ball, Logan Verrett is his strength is that slider. During the course of the season, I would say that you're around the 66% level. 2 out of every 3 are going to be very, very good. At this point in camp, you're lucky if 1 out of 4 are half decent.
Another chance for De Aza. And that's the second out. Well, we were referencing it before, the Eric Hosmer dash for the plate in Game 5 that tied the game in the ninth. Here it is.
So you see Hosmer could have come way down the line. There's no one there. The ball was clearly Flores' ball. And sure, the throw, David can't even look. He can't hold anybody on. And sure, it was not a great throw from Duda, but I think Lucas shouldn't beat himself up so much. Two things went wrong on that play.
Do you think if he made a perfect throw that he necessarily would have had him?
Yes, he could have had him with a perfect throw, but also Hosmer could have walked home if he had taken a proper lead down the line.
Walker throws out Tomas Talis. That does it for the Marlins in the second. They score 2. 2-0 Miami. Home second inning in Port St. Lucie. Neil Walker will lead off against Justin Nicolino. This is quite the culture shock for Neil Walker. Not only did he spend his entire career in the Pittsburgh organization, but Pittsburgh born, Pittsburgh raised, huge Pirates fan as a kid, began switch hitting by watching Bobby Bonilla.
His dad played for the Pirates.
I mean, this is really the first time that he's had to deal with anything outside of the Pittsburgh area.
His dad was good friends with Roberto Clemente. The story about Clemente saying, "Go back, be with your family. I'm going to make this run to Nicaragua by myself," and he did. And of course, Roberto passed.
Switch hitter, better left-hand hitter, much better left-hand hitter than right-hand hitter. 6'3", 210 pounds, 30 years of age.
And you mentioned the left-right splits. Last year more pronounced than ever. Did not hit a home run from the right side. All 16 home runs came left-handed. 237 righty, 276 lefty. And what that does is raise the question of how much time Wilmer Flores gets at second base against the lefty. As Walker grounds one to Rojas. And that's the first out. And it's one of those questions, and we raised it earlier about Lagares as well, that Terry Collins will have to figure out. Teams more in Major League Baseball have been pro-platoon, and it certainly worked for Terry down the stretch last year.
I think one thing that Terry's going to have to do, and you mentioned it before, Gary, about the middle infield, a little long in the tooth, not in the fall of their careers, but you know they've played a lot, is who he gives time to. You know, David with the back, the middle infielders, does he give some time to? If he's able to do that, and if you have a good ball club like you expect you do, then you're going to be able to do that more.
Well, also it speaks to the fact that this Met club has a lot more depth than the clubs of the near past. more options for Terry means a deeper bench.
Well, certainly after they made the trades last year and got healthy, and they had guys like Kelly Johnson and Juan Uribe, it gave Terry more options. He did not play a set lineup every day, and they thrived with that the last 2 months of the season. The question is, can you do that for 6 months without ruffling feathers along the way?
You can, as long as those studs throw 7 scoreless every night.
Winning cures all. Darno hits the comebacker, and Nicolino takes care of it 2 out.
Man, we finally got around to the Ram Marlin defense. I was getting worried here.
Has it changed yet?
I was chomping at the bit. Ozuna in right. Yelich is the center fielder today. He will be playing, I would think, more left field. The infield here, you got Chris Johnson, the veteran. Of course, a lot of guys have not made the trip here. It's a split squad. Talise behind the plate.
Now here's Alejandro De Aza playing right field today. De Aza played for 3 teams last year: Orioles, Red Sox, Giants. And the Mets signed him as a free agent before they had any idea that they were going to have a chance at Cespedes, which has kind of backed De Aza's role into a corner as the 5th wheel in that Mets outfield. Nolan takes care of that. 3 ground ball outs for Nicolino in a 1-2-3 second. On to the 3rd, 2-0 Marlins.
Make it back to the World Series and win it this time.
I think everybody is trying to go back and win the World Series.
I think we definitely have a lot of confidence.
When you do have success like that, the target on your back gets bigger. So you got to continue to stay hungry.
It's really exciting to see a team, feel like they're going all in.
I think we're all excited to get started.
All in indeed. And the Mets are that. Looking to not only get back to the World Series, but maybe do what the Royals did last year and avenge defeat and win a World Series. Akil Morris will be the second Met pitcher of the day, facing Arturo Rodriguez, the designated hitter.
Akil Morris's goal is to get back to the big leagues and get that ERA from 67.50. He just pitched 2/3 of an inning in one appearance and gave up 5 runs in Chicago.
Toronto. Right?
So Toronto.
I only know because I wasn't there.
See, the problem is I was there and I was so overwhelmed as the play-by-play guy I can't remember anything.
Zach Wheeler tuning in. Walker makes the play on Rodriguez, one away.
I remember that one. I had to carry you on my back.
You
for that
did.
game.
You carried me on my back. You did. That's a little scary.
You did a righteous job there, both of you.
Akil Morris is from the Virgin Islands. I played with a player from the Virgin Islands, Jerry Brown. I don't know if you remember him, infielder, played with the Indians and the A's, and original Met, right? Joe Christopher was the Virgin Islands guy.
Exactly. And another guy who figures into Mets history because he hit one of the fly balls that Tommy Agee made the great catches on in the 69 series. Ellie Hendricks with the Orioles.
I played with Jerry Brown in Cleveland.
Great guy, right?
The 1 year in Cleveland, I was there in 1990 when I was all washed up. He was a good guy.
They go Rojas up for the second time, grounded out to second base, and takes a breaking ball for a strike from Morris. Well, notwithstanding his one appearance in Toronto, Akil Morris had a terrific year last year, pitching here in St. Lucie and in Double-A Binghamton. He came straight from A-ball to the big leagues to make that appearance in Toronto, and then when the Mets sent him back down, he went to Double-A, and he fared almost as well there as he had in Single-A.
Got a good live arm. Long live arm action.
Jose Urena up in the Marlins bullpen. So it just shows you how plans can change in spring training. We showed you the list of pitchers due to pitch for the Mets this afternoon, right before the game. Akil Morris was not on the list. We got our first curveball.
I honestly love when we get things wrong, even more than when we get them right.
Rojas pops it up. Duda takes charge of it, and there are 2 out. So Logan Verrett went 2 innings, allowed 2 runs, 1 of them earned on 2 hits. Gave up the long home run to Dustin Hood that accounted for those 2 runs.
You know, funny shot down there. It was Zach Wheeler down there with the earphones on. I remember as a young player with the Cardinals coming up, and I wasn't getting a lot of playing time. Jack Buck, of course, was the voice of the Cardinals, and Mike Shannon. And when the games were on TV, we'd all take turns putting on the earphones and listening to the broadcast.
Lagares didn't get a good jump on that ball, and Ozuna has himself an extra base hit. Looked like Lagares froze on that ball at first, and Ozuna's 2 for 2.
Well, it's always a tough sky here in Florida in these day games. We always have these partly cloudy days. He did get a bad break on this ball, but this ball is scalded. Well struck by Ozuna. You pitch him upstairs, you're going to get in trouble. He likes that ball around mid-thigh up. He stays level on that ball. You got to keep the ball down on him.
Partly cloudy skies veering toward cloudier as the day goes along. As Christian Yelich takes a fastball for a strike. Yelich grounded into a double play his first time up. It's interesting, Keith, you were talking about the outfield configuration for the Marlins this year. You know, Yelich has played some center, and Ozuna's played some center, and Stanton's been a fixture in right. But when you have a new manager, it's going to want to take a look at everybody in various spots to see what combination works best. I think Mattingly comes in without preconceived notions.
But he has been in the National League. He has seen the Marlins team play. And remember, he's got to also take into effect, Gary, that's a big ballpark, and that center field configuration, you've got to have some guys that can catch the ball out there.
Although a little smaller now because they have brought some fences in left field and in right center, much as the Mets did after the first year at Citi Field. The Marlins have, after a couple of years at Marlins Park, decided that it's just a little too cavernous.
But also organizations in the winter have their meetings and they go, boy, you know what, we should really Ozuna's maybe a corner guy and Yelich might be our center field guy. You never know. So maybe that's what Mattingly's trying to do, is just take a look at all his options.
Well, I'm of the camp that when you've got a big ballpark, and you know, a lot of changes in the game, but some things are basic and hold true, is that your weakest arm is going to be in left field, or the shortest throw to third base. You want your strongest arm, obviously, in right field. Stanton has a cannon, and Ozuna has a cannon in center field.
Well, the Mets don't prescribe to that notion. Their strongest arms are Cespedes and Lagares, and neither one of them plays right field.
That's right.
Yes, and probably, and this is just an observation, not a criticism, their weakest arm is in right field, and Curtis Granderson.
Yeah. think that's more a comfort level than anything else, because Kerr's played a terrific right field last year. He just doesn't have the strongest arm. T.J. Rivera makes the play on Yelich, and that gets Akil Morris through the third. Works around the double by Ozuna. Keeps it a 2-0 game. Well, spring training is all about smiles, right? It's all about the optimism for the year ahead, and who should have more optimism than the New York Mets? Come on, you can smile too.
The berm.
Berm is packed today. All the seats sold out. Today at 5, get all the latest reports St. Lucie with exclusive interviews straight from camp, plus insider info and debate as the Mets continue their Grapefruit League schedule. Daily News Live presented by Citi today at 5, only on SNY.
It's only beginning.
24-year-old Jose Urena, who made his big league debut last year, will come on to pitch for the Marlins.
Started 9 games for them, in fact. Did Urena.
I think he started one of those against the Mets, didn't he, down the stretch of the season?
Well, they were literally, everyone that came in was 25 years or younger.
T.J. Rivera will lead off for the Mets, playing third base today. T.J., who grew up in the Bronx, went to Lehman High School, had a very good year in AA and AAA last year. Doesn't hit for a lot of power, but hit .325 overall last year with a .364 on base percentage.
Now I'm going to ask a stupid question. He went to Troy University. That's Troy,
Alabama.
New York. Oh, Alabama.
Yeah.
See? Well, so it was a stupid question.
Yeah, there's no such thing.
I didn't know colleges, my man.
It's one thing you've learned working here. We all ask questions, and none of them are stupid. Destin Hood over toward the line to catch Rivera's fly ball. I do find it remarkable, though, that with Rivera and Johnny Manel, the Mets have 2 players in camp who went to high school in the Bronx. That probably hasn't happened since the days of Ed Kranepool.
That's right. All started with the 16-year-old, right? Or 17-year-old?
17 when the Mets signed him out of Monroe High School in the Bronx. Here's Ty Kelly. Kelly, who played in the St. Louis and Toronto organizations last year, signed as a minor league free agent, playing left field today.
It's a big league name, right, Keith? Ty Kelly. It's a good name.
Like, remember the old outfielder for the Braves, Ty Klein?
Right. How about the old guy with the Tigers?
Yeah. Spikes up?
Yes. Tyrus?
Tyrus Raymond Cobb. Yes. Kelly 55. The Mets had a Kelly 55 last year.
That's right.
Kelly Johnson.
Oh, what is this?
A spring training design on the numbers. Kelly trying to find the hole. Nice play by Dietrich. And that's the second out.
Very nice backhand here. Not an easy play. And Dietrich's kind of more of an outfielder, is he?
He's a second baseman coming up.
But either way you look at it, that's a nice play. That's a tough hop.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now Juan Lagares, who had a single to right, took second on an error, hustling all the way. This Lagares struggled for the first 4 months of the season and became a much more productive player once he moved into a part-time role. At 259 for the year, but 287 from August 1st on, and then hit 348 in the postseason.
Well, he doesn't walk, Gare. That's one thing. He only walked 16 times last year in 441 at bats. And you know, Sandy Alderson is of the school, if you're not of the order of Cespedes or Duda, where you can hit it out of the park, you've got to find ways to get on base.
Rojas backing up on it. It comes up for him, and he throws out Lagares to end the inning. Rojas got a fortunate hop that time after giving ground. Now the alligators are out in force. Must be spring training in Port St. Lucie.
That looks like me this morning.
Watch out, Rusty.
Beautiful day for the beach on the Treasure Coast of Florida.
That's the same guy that was there last year. He must come down every spring.
He needs a little bigger bathing suit, by the way.
Well, if you did not pick up a newspaper or pay attention over the offseason, this is what the Mets did. They re-signed Cespedes and Colon. They picked up Neil Walker in the trade for John Neese. They signed Asdrubal Cabrera and Antonio Bastardo and Alejandro De Aza as free agents. Addison Reed on to pitch for the Mets as we go to the 4th inning. Reed, who came to the Mets late last year, had terrific numbers in the regular season, not so fantastic in the postseason.
Well, he's a hard thrower, former closer when he came up. Lost that role with Arizona, but he has a strong arm.
They have him a little more upright. He's throwing the ball a little over the top, trying to get on top of it. If you remember him from last year, more of a three-quarter guy. So they made an adjustment for Addison.
Chris Johnson flied out to right his first time up. Well, the Mets brought in 2 pitchers late last year who contributed down the stretch in the postseason, Addison Reed and Tyler Clippard. Now, Reed was under team control, and they tendered a contract, and they re-signed him, a little over $5 million. They opted not to try to re-sign Tyler Clippard, who was out on the open market for a long time.
Well, one thing I have to say about Tyler Clippard is that down the stretch, he was not 100%.
Agreed.
And he still pitched.
As Dribble Cabrera throws out Johnson, one away. And that leads us to Mets who have departed since last year, and Clippard is one of those, along with 2 other short-term rentals in Uribe and Johnson, and 2 guys who were a big part of this franchise for a long time, in Jonathan Neese and Daniel Murphy.
Jonathan Neese have a quote, like today's quote, or no? I mean, every single day got to read about something else.
Really? He's a Parate now. He's with the Pirates.
Here's Derek Dietrich taking low. Got to see Daniel Murphy yesterday up in Vieira. The crowd in Vieira was about a 50-50 split between Met fans and National fans, and both sides gave Murph a warm greeting.
Well, Murph just had an extraordinary postseason. The 7 home runs.
Well, I think we
just incredible what
I mean, he did something nobody had ever done before. Homering in 6 straight games.
Just incredible performance.
I thought that Murph also, when he was interviewed yesterday by the beat writers who had traveled up there to follow the Mets, had some pretty good insight as to why he's a National right now and not a Met. I think what he said was that the Mets did not want to bring in somebody for more than 1 year because they're setting the stage for Dilson Herrera to be their second baseman next year. So they offered Murph the qualifying offer. Had he taken it, they would have been thrilled to have him back. But when he turned it down, they were not going to offer him a multi-year deal, and instead they made the trade for Walker, who will be a free agent after this season. And that's what you're trading. You're trading Murph for Walker, and they're not the same player, but you might get close to the same production from the two of them. Walker probably has a little more power, or at least he has through his career.
Well, I think you're going to get a more consistency in the field from Walker. Walker is a proven winner. I have a lot of friends in St. Louis that they battled it out with the Pirates, and they were all extremely happy that Walker left the Central and got out of that Pirates lineup.
That's because he killed the Cardinals.
Yep. It was just a clutch hitter, solid glove.
Yeah, he's not going to wow you with the glove. Doesn't have great range, but he turns a double play, and Murph could make the spectacular play, but he'd also have his moments. I think Walker, as you say, is more consistent defensively.
And I think if you read the story of Joel Sherman the other day, the Mets finished 26th in the in Major League Baseball in turning double plays. And Ronnie can speak to this, and I'm an infielder. When a pitcher gets a ground ball, you've got to turn the double play for him.
Here's ball 4, and Dietrich's on with a 1-out walk. Well, those are the career numbers for Neil Walker. Hit as many as, I think 23 home runs was his high.
But he's basically a 15-12 kind of home run player. But he's a very heady player.
Switch hitter, better left-hand hitter.
Has better range, they say, to his left than up the middle.
What's interesting also about Walker in comparison to Murph is that neither one of them started out as a second baseman. Murph started out as a third baseman, then they tried him in the outfield, first base. Walker started out in the minors as a catcher.
Really?
And the Pirates moved him to second base about half a dozen years ago, and when he first started working at second base, the Pirates had Bill Mazeroski come in and work with him on his double play pivot. And who better to learn from?
Yeah, really.
I do have to say, my walks around New York this winter, one of the things I heard all the time, and certainly isn't a Gallup poll, but Gallup polls stink so far this winter anyway. But people love Daniel Murphy, Mets fans, and he'll be missed.
Yes.
They do. They love him.
Yeah, they do. Well, you know what? Daniel always played hard. He was conscientious. He went out there you never got a 80% performance from Daniel. You always got 100%, and fans recognize that.
And fans also, they love their players. You know, I mean, other than David Wright, nobody had been an everyday player for the Mets longer than Daniel Murphy, and people lived and died with him for a long time. And you know, he wasn't perfect, but he was human, and I think people enjoyed that. Cabrera on the charge, throws out Destin Hood, who had a 2-run homer his first time up. Out on a 6-3 put out this time as Dietrich takes second, and there are 2 out. And then there's Cabrera on the other side of second base from Walker. We should talk a little about him defensively. Again, a guy who at one point a couple of years ago, some teams felt he wasn't a shortstop anymore, and he got himself in better shape. The Nats, remember when they got him 2 years ago, they played him at second base. And when he went to Tampa last year, he had to convince them that he was still capable of being an everyday shortstop.
Entering his 11th season, 30 years of age. He's an offensive player. Came up with Cleveland.
He was a very thin player when he first came up. He is kind of thickened up, kind of Johnny Peralta-like, right, at shortstop?
Oh, he's made all the plays today. Made him look very smooth.
Another guy who's not going to have, you know, lights out range, but is going to make every play that comes to him.
Well, it's important to note too is that you've got a starting rotation that is a strikeout staff. Outside of Bartolo, who gets his share of strikeouts, everybody else is a flamethrower.
Does that make your up the middle defense less of a concern?
You are playing with fire, but yes, I think it was a consideration. I still feel that, I mean, with the strikeout staff that the Mets had with the Seaver days, you had Harrelson up the middle, who was Wilson Pickett.
Yeah, but you had Ken Boswell on the other.
Yeah, that's true. Then you had Wayne Garrett at third. Wayne didn't have a lot of range.
Those guys were both, you know, more offensive players. The center field, Lagares gets a good jump on this one and tracks it to the edge of the warning track to retire the side. Hitless inning for Addison Reed. Keeps it a 2-0 game heading to the bottom of the 4th in Port St. Lucie. Yoenis Cespedes gets on his horse.
Well, yeah.
With a little pie.
Very nice.
Getting ready for his second at bat of the day. As Drupal Cabrera leads off, Cabrera batted right-handed his first time up and lined out to right field, about left-handed against Jose Urena. You know, there was some talk last year, we were talking about Cabrera in the field, about his defense going backwards the second half of last year, but he had a hamstring injury that knocked him to the DL in June, and it was really from that point on that maybe lost a step defensively. Fully healthy now. Grounds one down to Dietrich, who boxes it down and makes the play. 1 out.
Well, he made that one a little tougher than it was. Could have played that on the big hop, right, Chief?
Well, he could have come in and just got the short hop. Would have been probably the better way to go once you're committed in. But he pulls up here, and then he gets that in-between hop. Stays in front. Not pretty, but it's a 3-1 on your scorecard.
For you.
Oh, did he take it himself?
Spring training, Keith.
Oh, you know, I gotta look at the monitor.
Well, here is Cespedes up for the second time, grounded out to short his first time up. Cespedes played 57 games for the Mets after the trade from Detroit, but it was that 31 game stretch, right in the middle, when he hit all 17 of his home runs. Cooled off a little bit after that, struggled a bit in the postseason. Chops one down to Johnson at third. And you know, from a fan standpoint, the 17 home runs in 31 games is all that matters. The question is, what can you expect from Cespedes for a full season?
I don't care.
Do you expect the numbers he put up last year? Is that fair?
Well, his numbers were, as you mentioned it earlier, 35 home runs on the year, 105 RBI. I expect triple digits in RBI. I think the Mets want that from him. He's in the cleanup spot. He also scored 101 runs last year. Now, this is his 5th year in the big leagues, Gary. He's a lifetime, and over those first 4 years, he's a 271 lifetime hit. So you want, obviously, I would think you'd want 25 plus from him, but you certainly want the 100 RBI.
You know, you mentioned it earlier about the Mets valuing the walk, and certainly Cespedes is not that kind of hitter. And I know Mike Piazza was in camp and talked to Mike, who talked to Cespedes, and he was trying to convince Yoenis that he needed to be more selective. Can he be more selective, or is he just going to be what he is?
Well, the thing is, do the guys, some players get it and some don't. How do you get him to lay off the pitch up and in, which was a problem for him, and then they'd up and in him, and then they'd throw him that bad breaking ball in the dirt. He has to work on it in batting practice and not swing at that pitch. That is to any hitter, any good hitter. Most of them don't like the ball up and in. It's the most difficult pitch. It crowds you the most. And he's a big burly guy, big chested guy. It even makes him more vulnerable up and in. If he takes that pitch, sometimes the umpires don't call that pitch. They don't give it to the pitcher.
Duda hits one into the shift. It gets by Rojas, but the third baseman Johnson, playing out in shallow right field, is able to throw him out. 5-3 arm or something. Jerry Blevins, battling his way back from a twice broken arm last year, will take the mound for the first time this spring.
Boy, it's interesting. Only 5 innings. We talked about him all year last year.
Yeah, all he did is retire everybody he faced last year. If he could do that this year, he'll be golden. Meanwhile, Steve Gelbs is standing by with today's Mets starting pitcher. Steve?
Thanks a lot, Gary. Here with Logan Verrett. A couple innings pitched. Logan, how'd you feel out there today?
I felt good. It's always nice to get back into the swing of things. And haven't had a batter in the box in a competitive game environment in 5 months, so that was nice. And the crowd, I mean, when we ran out on the field, to the National League champions and that roar, that was pretty neat.
Pretty cool moment there for you guys. For you personally, when you take the mound in an early spring training game like this, what are the things that you're trying to work on?
Well, that's spring training is all about the process, and we preach that a lot here. And so, I mean, we've been working on some stuff on our side work and everything, and just right now kind of trying to translate that into a game atmosphere, which, you don't want to see bad results in a game ever, really, but, I mean, that's what spring training's for. And so, as long as the process is good and we're kind of achieving what we want mechanically, the rest will come, so...
Is it something that's a little bit easier for you in this spring training to trust the process a little bit more because you had some success at the major league level last year? Maybe don't feel like there's as much that you need to prove right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more relaxing. You come into this camp, trying to make a team every year, and so it's always a little stressful. But having the big league time under my belt from last year and the success and everything that the team had, so it's a lot more relaxing. And like I said, trying to just get that process, rolling, and you see the results later on, that'll be good.
Last season, Terry Collins spoke about that one start you had, your first start in Colorado. He mentioned it as one of the most important starts of the season for that team. When you look back on that moment, how much more confidence does that give you heading into this season that you were able to perform the way that you did?
Well, I think it not only gives me the confidence, but it also gives TC, the staff, and my teammates the confidence and my ability to go in, step in, and spot start if we need it. And we've already talked early on that we're going to do a 6-man every now and then, and try to give the big five their rest and whatnot. So I think it gives me the confidence as well. But that was nice to get a pat on the back from Coach early on in camp, and that was certainly one of the highlights from my season last year. So. For him, with all the World Series and everything, the playoff run, and all the excitement of that, for him to remember that was pretty special.
Logan, you speak about the spot starts, and that's something for you as you look towards this season. There's not a clearly defined role as of yet. You could be a long man in the bullpen, or you could be that starting pitching depth down in AAA. Have you thought much about that? Do you have a different approach as you start camp here in terms of, not really knowing which spot you're going to land?
As far as the approach goes, you really just take it day by day. Whether you're starting or relieving, whatever they need me to do, I'm here to help the team win. We got the ingredients to make another amazing postseason run, and however I can factor into that is going to be my role, and I'm going to go out there and try and do it to the best of my ability, and hopefully we get right back where we were last year and redeem ourselves.
Logan, you also mentioned the Big Five, and that's what everybody's pretty much talking about. From the outside, it's pretty amazing to watch, but as a pitcher, as a professional pitcher, what is it like to watch those guys in their craft?
It's really special for us. Because they're all, we're all young. We all came up together. Whether it was in the minor leagues or I played with Harvey in summer ball in the Cape, so back in college, just being able to grow together, to learn from each other. For us, it's going to pay dividends down the road, being able to learn from possibly future Hall of Famers. These guys are some of the best in the game, and so just to pick their brain and just kind of bounce ideas off of each other, it's special, and it makes it a lot of fun to come to the park every day.
Logan, we appreciate a few minutes here today. Thanks so much.
Absolutely, thanks.
Gary, let's send it back to you.
All right, Steve, and Steve raised a very interesting point with Logan, and it applies to Sean Gilmartin too, right? Both those guys are competing for jobs in the bullpen right now. But the one or both who don't get that job in the bullpen go to the minor leagues to prepare to be an extra starter when the Mets need one. So as a pitcher, and both of them would prefer to be starting pitchers, which would you rather have, a role in the bullpen in the big leagues or a chance to groom yourself as a starter for a job down the road?
There's no job down the road. I would look at it this way. Personally, if I were in spring training, I would say, these guys are so good, I got no shot
I don't want to go to AAA and get ready for a situation where there's no shot. I want to do whatever it takes to make the minimum here with the big league ball club, traveling and staying in Ritz-Carltons and Four Seasons. That's what I would do.
Oh, but it's so much fun in those buses.
Well said, I think.
That's what I would do, personally. By the way, I know that doesn't matter that much, but when Sandy and the gang get together and talk about who's going to make the staff, Logan Verrett is very well spoken. He would help the broadcast a lot during the course of the year if we could go to him occasionally.
But, you know, Sean Gilmartin speaks very well, too. I mean,
that's right.
We've got a lot of smarts in that club.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Well, we'll see how well they do with Gelbs during the spring, and that'll parlay into seeing if they make the ball club.
Jerry Blevins on the mound right now.
Well, he's a little too erudite for most of us, so we're going to have to pass on him.
Rojas hits one right by Blevins into center field. So for the first time since last spring training, Blevins has given up a base runner.
Blevins will be talking about Cocteau and Rousseau, and I mean, no one will know anything that he's talking about.
Just as long as that ball up the middle doesn't hit him in his forearm.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's what felled him last year, was a line drive off his arm, and then as he was rehabbing, he fell and re-broke the arm, and that cost him the rest of the season. Well, here's Marcell Ozuna, who has scorched the ball twice today, once to left and once to right center, and now into center field for his third hit of the afternoon. So Ozuna having himself a day. Now this was last April.
And that ball was off the end of the bat too. It really wasn't like it was hit that hard, but it hit him right in the right spot.
Well, D. Gordon did a lot of damage last year. That was some of it.
Well, he gets reunited with his old skipper Don Mattingly.
Got a pinch runner at second base. J.T. Riddle. As Christian Yelich steps in the batter's box. Yelich is 0 for 2 today. And Blevins misses with the curveball. There's Riddle, and also a pinch runner at first base. That is Mason Davis.
I can never get used to the double flaps in the major leagues, those helmets.
Shane Victorino begs to differ.
Well,
how about Willie McGee?
Willie McGee, you took the words out of my mouth.
Under the glove of Cabrera, and now Riddle trying to score, and he'll come home with the third Marlins run. And it's 3-0.
That could be a base hit and an error, couldn't it?
Should be, because
it could be a base hit.
Riddle wouldn't get stopped.
It wouldn't get an argument from me. But certainly the run scores on the air. I think that's an E6 all the way.
There all the way.
I think that's a correct call.
Yeah.
Yelich can get down the line, so I'm not sure he was going to throw him out. But in any event, it's only spring training scoring. Contracts are not won or lost on spring training statistics.
We saw some of the scoring last year. They could work on their scoring in spring training.
So here's Chris Johnson, who's flied out and grounded out.
You know, it's pretty interesting. I've seen 2 hitters already for the Marlins, Keith, that have had their hands down. We mentioned Yelich. Remember Chris Johnson? He used to keep it around his ear,
yes.
like wrapped it up way high.
Yep.
He's almost down by his chest now. Big change.
Well, when you don't have success, and you know Johnson now has just kind of become a journeyman player, you've got to make some changes. The only guy I saw that can hold his hands up high, was a heck of a player, was, and you saw him play a lot, Ron, it was Yaz.
Yeah.
A little miscommunication there. Walker was not at the bag.
If we're going all the way back to 67, Reggie Smith, he's holding pretty high, too.
Reggie Smith held him high, played with Reggie in St. Louis.
Got another pinch runner for the Marlins. Kenny Wilson running at first base. Lagares right there waiting, and puts it away to retire Johnson. An unearned run for the Marlins halfway through in Tradition Field, 3-0. We go to the bottom of the fifth at Tradition Field in Port St. Lucie. Marlins tacking on an unearned run and leading 3-0. Well, the Marlins have put up a whole new team in the field. Derek Dietrich stays at first, but everybody else has changed. That's Jeffrey Perez at second, JT Riddle at short. Our old friend Zach Lutz, the former Met, is at third. Tommy Medica is in left field. Kenny Wilson in center, and Mason Davis is in right. The new catcher is Adrian Nieto.
Well, the new left-hander is Tim Berry. Tried the nightmare last year in Bowie for the AA Baltimore Orioles. 2-7 with a 7 and change ERA.
Too many sevens.
Well, he had knee surgery last August, which probably contributed to some of his problems. And he's greeted with a ringing base hit by Neil Walker. Just the Mets' second hit of the day. And their first after 12 Mets in a row had been retired.
Catcher setting up away. Ball is away. Good pitch. That's just driving right up the middle there. Very nicely done by Mr. Walker.
Walker comes out for a pinch runner. Dilson Herrera will take his spot. And so it begins. The scorecard is ruined in the fifth inning.
No.
You're not even trying. I know. I don't see any colored pens.
Yes, sir. Oh, yep. And I always got to have the colors. That keeps me going.
D'Arnaud, who had a comebacker his first time up.
You're just not taking the pinch running and defensive changes as seriously as you usually would.
Well, you know what happens is a lot of times in these games is that when they make these changes in positions, they don't bat them in the same order.
Right.
So I kind of just put them in my defensive side.
So you are putting them in your defense.
Yes.
So you can recite for me who's on the field right now for the Marlins.
I can, except I didn't get the first baseman. Medica in left.
No, it's still Dietrich.
Okay, so Medica in left. Wilson center. Davis in right. Lutz, old Mr. Lutz over at third. Riddle short. Perez second. Is it Nieto? Nieto.
As in Tom.
Okay. I'm on the ball.
I am very impressed. I did not know that you were that up to date.
You think I don't pay attention to you, Garrett?
I know you don't always.
I have to listen to you all for the next 7 months.
Exactly.
I'm tuning up.
It's a process.
A process. Like spring training. It's a process.
Or like Dr. Timothy Leary. Tune in, tune out.
Yes. Drop out.
Here's your 4th, 5th inning recap. 2-run homer by Destin Hood in the second inning off Logan Verrett. Staked the Marlins to the early lead. Mets have been held to just 2 hits. Lagares had a hit leading off the first. Walker has had a hit leading off this 5th. And now d'Arnaud takes inside from Berry, and it's 3-1. Well, certainly one of the goals this year for the Mets is to keep Travis d'Arnaud healthy. There's Jim Henderson getting ready in the Mets bullpen. d'Arnaud was shelved twice last year. Had the broken hand early in the season, and then the elbow injury on that freak play at home plate with A.J. Przinsky. There's ball 4, and the Mets have 2 men on. But in addition to good health, d'Arnaud and his backup Kevin Plawecki have both received new gifts. First baseman's gloves.
Oh, that's right.
There's Alejandro De Aza, who grounded out his first time up. Herrera the pinch runner at second, and d'Arnaud at first.
Well, it's interesting that they've got Flores working a little bit over at first base. Seeing if he can handle that. I'm of the kind of the opinion that I would maybe familiarize Conforto to first base a little bit and see what he can do over there. I don't know. He's never been an infielder. But I would certainly want to at least give him a couple ground balls, take a look at him over there.
Are you saying that because you think he'd be good at the position, or because they've got a surplus of outfielders?
Surplus of outfielders, and I just feel I haven't seen Conforto play enough. Obviously, we've not seen him play in the infield. But
check swing tapper. He might beat this out. Lutz with the quick toss, not in time. De Aza gets down the line well, and his infield hit loads up the bases.
Well, check swing with a base hit on it. You'll take it any day of the week. Tied him up inside. He can still fly at 30 years of age. Should be able to. That's in the middle of your prime.
Playing against the team with whom he came to the big leagues. They were then the Florida Marlins. De Aza had injuries throughout his tenure with the Marlins.
Like ankle injuries where it took away his running.
So a chance for T.J. Rivera to cash in. Bases loaded, nobody out. Rivera flied to left his first time up. Scooped out of the dirt by Nieto. 1-0.
75, the number for Rivera. Do you remember your first spring training number? I do too.
I was an outside linebacker.
I was a middle linebacker. 54.
I was 57.
Just nice to have your name on the jersey.
That's right.
Means you're in big league camp to stay. Foul deep down the left field line. Well past the tiki bar.
I heard some talk last night that maybe you might be making your way down to the tiki bar for one of these games to mingle with your fans.
Yes, but no alcoholic beverage on the job. Can't have it.
Not before 5. Bases loaded, nobody out. 2-1 to Rivera with Ty Kelly on deck. So after Justin Nicolino and Jose Urena each threw 2 scoreless innings, Tim Berry running into trouble here in the 5th. And that's drilled to left. That's a base hit. Herrera will come in with the first Mets run. Darnell is held at third. And it's now a 3-1 Marlins lead. T.J. Rivera showing the Marlins the Bronx.
Is that our official first "Let's Go Mets" chant? I think it was.
Nice swinging right here. 2 good seasons in a row in the minor leagues. 300 seasons for Rivera. And not a strong throw home.
Rivera is one of those guys for whom the clock is ticking. He's 27 years old. He's always hit in the minor leagues and hoping maybe there's a utility role for him somewhere along the way this year.
He doesn't hit for a lot of power, but he hits for a high average.
And he can play a lot of different places, which works in his favor. Here's Ty Kelly, who grounded out his first time, and he takes a curveball for a strike. Kelly had a rough year last year playing in AAA with St. Louis and Toronto. Hit just .226, but was a lot more successful earlier in his minor league career. And the Mets brought him in as a minor league free agent. Wilmer Flores out on deck.
I can tell you, Gary, when you're a player that's invited to camp and you get up in these games off big league pitching, and you got the bases loaded like this, you're nervous. I guarantee you.
Little flare into shallow right, and that'll fall for a hit. Darno is in to score. Racing for the plate, De Aza, and he's going to be out by a mile. So Kelly drives in a run as Darno scores, but Davis easily throws out De Aza at the plate for the first out of the inning. It's now 3-2 Marlins.
Strong throw here. Just a little flare into right field. One let go with the bat with one hand. Perfect throw home.
And the ovation you hear could only be for one man. And that would would be Wilmer Flores. Not that. There. Last year, on the 29th of July, indelibly made himself a crowd favorite forever.
A cult hero.
And they're chanting his name in Port St. Lucie. In a way, I'm not sure I've ever heard a player's name chanted in Port St. Lucie. It's amazing. It's amazing what a little show of humanity and all the circumstances that surrounded it and then ensued have cemented Wilmer Flores' place in Met fans' hearts forever. Because when you think about it, the tears that Wilmer shed in late July were the turning point of the season.
They were.
That's right. That's right.
2 nights later, hit a walk-off home run
Against the Nationals. A big win.
The same day that Cespedes was acquired, and everything started going in a positive direction for this franchise.
I think that incident, I can't really call it an incident, just that circumstance, I think, melded the team at that point. I think they came together.
Flores with a 2-0 advantage. And now 3-0. Well, from the day that Wilmer hit that walk-off against the Nats last year, from July 31st on, the Mets became a different team. They went from the lowest scoring team in the National League to the highest scoring team in the National League.
Let him swing.
And he takes it outside for ball 4, and the bases are loaded once again. So the second walk of the inning given up by Berry, who has not yet retired a batter. His only out has come on the bases, and now Matt Reynolds is going to bat for Asdrubal Cabrera. Reynolds, who was the talk of camp last year after his terrific year 2 seasons ago, took a step back last year, and he did get a big league call in the postseason. Never played in a game, but he was on the roster and could have become the first player in history to get his first at bat in a postseason game. Didn't work out that way, but he did get to be a part of it. That's here with the bases loaded and 1 out. And Berry really having trouble finding the plate.
And that's going to get the coaches down there stirring. Get on that phone and get someone up. Make sure that guy's ready down there. Oh my goodness. Maxwell Smart. Chief.
That's Derek Pizzello, the pitching coach.
He's the acting pitching coach. He's the AAA pitching coach for the Marlins. Again, they're playing a split squad today, so the brain trust is down in Jupiter.
Their manager is Tim Wallach. An outstanding player for the Expos for so many years. Underrated.
Wallach,
excellent player.
Wallach will be the bench coach for Don Mattingly this year. He was a doubles machine.
Oh, man.
Playing up in Montreal. And by the way, there's a big piece of news regarding the Expos today. Maicer Izturis announced his retirement, and that means that there's only one remaining Montreal Expo in the major leagues, and that is
Ian Desmond.
No, Bartolo Colon. Desmond never played for the Expos. He was signed by the Expos.
You're right.
But Colon is the last player who played for the Expos left in the major leagues. Double play ball right at Perez, and Riddle makes the turn, and the 4-6-3 double play ends the inning. Mets get 2 runs back and trail 3-2 after 5. 6 join the discussion as a panel of team insiders connect with fans via social media to tackle all your questions about the latest Mets news. Plus, game highlights and up-to-the-minute reports from camp on Mets Talk Live tonight at 6, only on SNY. Changes for the Mets. Johnny Manel is in to catch. Dominic Smith takes over at first base. Dilson Herrera, who pinch ran, stays in at second. Matt Reynolds, who pinch hit, in at short. Mark Krause is now in left field. Ty Kelly moves from left field to center field, and Travis Tyrone is in right. Jim Henderson, the new pitcher, and Derek Dietrich pops one foul. And you were up to date.
Well, Henderson was a nice pickup. A couple of seasons ago, at 28 saves for the Milwaukee Brewers, the pride of Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Henderson's a fascinating story because he really slogged through the minors. He was a 26th round pick. He didn't get out of A ball until he was 24 and didn't make it in the big leagues till he was 29. And now trying to fight his way back after a second shoulder surgery robbed him of all of last year. Dietrich has reached on there and walked. And he pops one up. Reynolds looking through the sunglasses. One away. Let's go downstairs to Steve Gelbs with the newest Met.
Yep, Gary here with Neil Walker. And Neil, you are as Pittsburgh a guy as there is. Born and raised there, drafted by your hometown team, played there for many years. What has this been like? Just a totally new experience leaving that city and going to a new organization.
Yeah, it took a couple days to really get settled in here and just have a new spring training situation, a new city, a new teammates, a new jersey, all those sorts of things. And they've made my teammates have made this transition very easy for me. So great group of guys and very welcoming.
You say the teammates have made the transition very easy. What is the toughest part of something like that, though?
I guess just getting to know everybody and there being tons of different personalities and meeting people for the first time, and it's really not that difficult to kind of fit in. At least for me, it hasn't been, but there's definitely an adjustment period that takes place.
What about the transition of a whole new double play partner now with Asdrubal Cabrera? Obviously, he's going through the same thing you are, but how difficult and how much time does that take to really get a nice rhythm down?
Yeah, I mean, your game experience is especially here in spring training, is most important, especially when you're talking about, positioning and double play turns and feeds and knowing where each other are. So today was a good day. We turned one double play and we had some balls. We were both moving around a little bit. So it was those are more important than anything else.
Is it more with something like that, getting the feel down and just going through repetition, or is it something that you have to talk a lot about before?
No, I mean, not so much. I mean, when we work a lot on the backfields and before the game and just kind of on what we like and dislike, and then when the games start, we just kind of are looking at each other to see where we might be playing, or communicate obviously who's covering the bag and those type of things. And so it's more so seeing and reacting and kind of learning the dislikes of the likes and dislikes of the other guy, as opposed to kind of talking through it.
What about offensively, Neil? Your splits, especially last year from the left side, were much better than from the right side. What are you doing to try and get that right-handed splits up a little bit more?
Yeah, K-Long and myself have really been working hard on simplifying things from the right side and letting the barrel work toward the middle part of the field. And today was I got 2 at-bats today, right-handed, which is always nice, and hit both balls hard, really. So like I said, for me, it's keeping it simple and not trying to do too much, and use the barrel as much as I can.
What are your early thoughts on working with Kevin Long?
Oh, he's been fantastic. I mean, he's very individualized for every single guy that comes in there. Obviously very positive. He's always upbeat, and the guys like to work when they go see him.
You made the playoffs with Pittsburgh the last 3 years, coming to a team with pretty high expectations. What experiences can you take from your time in Pittsburgh and bring them here to help this team?
Well, I think, just those knowing what it's like playing in those situations. Obviously, the postseason and late September baseball is kind of a different beast. And, that deer in the headlights look, that type of thing kind of goes away the more you do it. And so I was fortunate enough these last 3 years to play in big situations. And, I hope to come over here and fit in and help this team get back to the World Series.
Neil, appreciate the time.
All right, thank you.
Gary, back to you.
And our preseason interview with Neil Walker, brought to you by Citi. It's interesting because Walker's been in that wild card game 3 years in a row. which is the ultimate pressure.
Yeah, they beat Johnny Cueto once, but the other two were defeats for the Pirates. And after last season, when they won, 98 ball games and sent packing by Jake Arrieta, I think, I'm not saying it's right because I broadcast those games, and that one and done is some of the best games I've ever seen. But I think at some point it's going to be a best 2 out of 3 because that's how baseball works. It's series.
Perez with the foul tip strikes out for the second out.
Well, the good thing about Henderson, when you watch him, he's a big guy, but he hunkers down a little bit, and watch how he makes that big body small and really pushes off that back leg. That's why he's able to throw the ball so hard. You were talking about Henderson. They had the same thing with John Axford, a guy that kind of came late to the picture.
Well, Henderson is certainly one of the candidates for those last 2 spots in the bullpen. You figure in a 7-man bullpen, Familia, Reed, Bastardo, Blevins, Robles, those 5 spots are pretty well secured. So it's those last 2 spots.
I think Henderson can really help them. You can tell by his face it's red. He's a little nervous. You know, he's trying to overthrow a little because he really wants to make an impression. I don't care how old you are. When you're with a team for the first time, you're in spring training trying to make a team, you are nervous and pushing it.
Let me ask you this also, and Steve asked it a little bit of Logan Verrett earlier. When you're on a staff with all these guys who can throw the ball through buildings, is there a tendency maybe to try and replicate that more than you should? Because you're around guys who, you know, are so naturally gifted?
Yeah, you better not. You know, the only way to really make it at this level is you got to know thyself and know what you can do to get people out. Now, Henderson, though, is a guy who does get people out by throwing the ball extremely hard. Maybe not like the other guys. Yeah, exactly. Who does?
Well, Syndergaard.
I told you the story that we had one of the first spring trainings. They had Dwight Gooden and Sid Fernandez, and I threw pretty hard in those days, and others. And they had Ed Lynch and Tom Gorman, and they both went up to Mel afterwards and said, hey, listen, we cannot throw in that group. We need to beat another group. That is not fun.
That can work to your advantage, too. You're very funny, LeBron. Is that it's good that you got a bunch of hard throwers and you mix in a guy with a soft tosser. It's a nice little change.
Nice job by Henderson. Back-to-back strikeouts to finish his inning. So he throws his hat in the ring. Still 3-2 Marlins in the 6th. Well, I'm sure you've seen or heard about this. This was Noah Syndergaard's idea to have he and Cowboy Cespedes come in on horseback.
What's the hell with Syndergaard?
Well, he's a smart Texan, you know. Sitting high in the saddle. Of course, the best part of that entire day was Jay Horwitz sitting up on the horse.
With the white socks. Pretty impressive.
With the 10-gallon hat.
And the horizontal stripes on the polo.
New Cespedes up for the third time, DHing today, and now facing Austin Bryce. That's just a perfect shot, right? Sun coming through the trees. It's almost like the end of a Western. And off they go into the sunshine. Of course, that was the culmination of the Yoenis Cespedes Transportation Week, featuring a couple of those slingshots and the Lamborghini and the tricked out Jeep.
Alfa Romeo.
Yeah.
He also had a couple of cars that don't even have 4 tires. They only have 3.
Well, a slingshot.
Oh, that's what they're called?
I want to know, can you go hard around a corner with that thing?
That looks a little dangerous to me, doesn't it?
Sure does.
But what do I know?
There's Austin Bryce, who was a starter in AA last year.
I think it's all great. I mean, every single day, everyone in the clubhouse doesn't have to worry about answering any questions. It's Cespedes every day, all day long.
Oh, good breaking ball there. Out of the strike zone.
Oh, that's a real downer.
That's a real hard snapper right there.
So 1 out and nobody on. And now Dominic Smith will bat for the first time. Former Mets first-round draft pick.
Was it here last year that he had a nice year in Port St. Lucie?
He had a very impressive year. Ooh. A slick fielding first baseman. Grounds one to his opposite number. And Dan Black, who's just come into the game, makes the play on Smith for the first down. In fact, Dominic Smith was named Florida State League Player of the Year last year.
I really enjoyed the column. I forget where it was, so I apologize to the writer, but it was on how Dominic has moved from where he grew up in Los Angeles, Compton, I believe, and moved here to Port St. Lucie, and his family's with him, and he's got the Odell Beckham Jr.
Did he get that done in L.A. or here in St. Louis?
There's Wally on the right.
I mean, nothing against anything, but you're not getting your haircut here in Port St. Lucie. Just my opinion.
I'll keep that in mind. With me, it probably doesn't matter. Here's Dustin Herrera taking a breaking ball strike. Herrera up for the first time. Those are lovely looking curls.
A little different look here, Keith, from Herrera. He's standing up, resting the bat on his shoulder before the pitch comes. That's a very Andrew McCutchen-like who does that for Pittsburgh.
Very stocky young man. I like his swing. I think he's got a chance to be a good one. He keeps tearing it up in AAA.
Hit a long home run in the intra-squad game here on Tuesday.
Young kid. He's got bright future ahead of him.
Just turned 22 years old.
You know, he's a young kid, but when you look around baseball, it seems like all the time. I mean, the best players have had already great careers, and they're 22, 23, 24 years old. I'm talking about Trout and Harper. So there is a move where these guys are ready to go at 20, 21 years old.
Wayne Belo up in the bullpen.
Nice.
Scorched into center and a base hit for Herrera. So Dilson is aboard with a 2-out single.
You know, when Dilson was up and playing, they gave him a shot to play every day earlier in the year last year, and that's when the club was collectively in a slump, and that's tough on a young hitter. when you try to do, you get tendencies to try to do too much. The team was really struggling offensively to score runs, and he was kind of thrown into that mix, and he just couldn't get untracked.
You're like me, right, Keith? You'd be very surprised if Herrera is not a real good player in this league at some point.
I like the way he handles the glove. I like the way he hangs in there on double plays. He runs well.
You know, we were talking before about the Mets' machinations with their middle infield, right? Signing Cabrera for 2 years, letting Murphy go, making the trade for Walker, who only has 1 year left on his deal. And part of that is with the notion that Dilson Herrera might be ready to be the everyday guy next year. But also Gavin Cecchini is on his way. Had a very good year last year in Double-A, former first-round draft pick. And he could be ready to be a middle infielder either next year or the year after.
Isn't there another shortstop, a Rosario? Or
Ahmed Rosario is a little further down the line. Maybe he's 3 years away. But that's how you build your organization, right? And that's how you make decisions at the major league level, not to hamstring you from being able to mix in your younger guys, which keeps your payroll in check enough so that you can sign the pitchers that you might want to sign long term.
That's going to be some major iron.
It was a little bit of a stir today when Jacob deGrom and the Mets did not come to an agreement on his salary, and so the Mets, which is their right, renewed his contract at, what was it, $607,
I think.
Right, which is, well above the minimum, but obviously not what deGrom and his agent thought he should get for a pitcher of his caliber. But it's all a matter of the team having the hammer for the first 3 years, and then the hammer goes to the player.
That's right. I remember the days when you didn't have a hammer for 6 years.
You had a fly swatter.
Well, once the arbitration clock kicks in on all these guys and they head toward free agency, the numbers are going to become astronomical if you assume that they maintain the level of performance that they've established. Manel flares one into shallow right, and back goes Perez to get it. Nice play to end the inning. A hit and one left. On to the seventh we go in Port St. Lucie. It's 3-2 Miami. Nice beach. Mets Spring Training Baseball is live with the MLB.com at-bat app. Stay connected all spring with radio broadcasts, video highlights, stats, news, and more. Download MLB.com at-bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your smartphone and tablet. Dwayne Belo will be the 6th Met pitcher of the afternoon.
Originally signed by the Tigers in 2006, so he's really hung in there. Went to the Marlins, and now with the Mets. Pitched in Vegas last year. You see his numbers. Doesn't walk anybody. 8 in almost 50 innings of pitching.
Arturo Rodriguez, the DH today, leads off a Texas strike. Belo was actually released by the Mets last summer so he could go pitch in Japan for the Yokohama Bay Stars. Made 1 appearance, and that was it.
Not exactly Mr. Baseball.
Matt Reynolds, low throw. Nice pick by Dominic Smith. Living up to his reputation around the bag at first. 1 out, and we check in with Steve Gelb. Steve?
Gary, Jim Henderson pitched a scoreless 6th in his Mets spring training debut. He joins us right now. And, Jim, for you, it's been a couple of years since you pitched in the major leagues after shoulder surgery in 2014. What is the feeling being back out there, trying to prove yourself again? Are there any nerves the first outing?
Lots of nerves. That was exciting, though. It's the first time I've faced big league hitters since last year's spring. I only had a few outings in spring training last year. And then before that, it was probably April of 2014. So it's good to get out there and get competitive again against this level of competition.
How'd you feel?
Felt good. Yeah. It was nice to get some work with a runner on. We haven't done that yet through live BPs or anything, so I got that out of the way.
Riddle singles to center field. For you, you had such a great year in 2013 with the Brewers as the closer, 28 saves. Your velocity was really high up there, high 90s when you were pitching for Milwaukee. In the year and a half since the surgery, really, have you had to really start to learn how to become a different type of pitcher?
Yeah, like last year my velocity would be in the lower 90s most of the time. So, and then I was mostly a fastball slider guy when I was closing for Milwaukee. So I had to throw in that changeup as well to keep them off balance. Because if you're throwing a low 90s fastball, hitters are, you can't make mistakes with that one. So you have to learn how to pick the corners a bit, pick your times of when you're going to be aggressive. But for me, as long as I'm healthy, the velocity really doesn't matter. But if I can be aggressive in the zone, that's the key to my game.
Terry Collins has said there are 2 spots open in the bullpen right now in his mind. The way that you approach this spring, I know it's been written that there were times where you weren't even sure you were going to get another shot. So is it kind of playing with house money, or is it something that you're really focusing on trying to get that last spot?
For me right now, it's just staying healthy. If I open the season up in Las Vegas, I have no problem with that. Obviously, everybody here wants to be in the big leagues, including myself. But for me, like I said, just staying healthy, proving again that I can get to that top level, and I can face these guys. So it'll be a big spring for me. But at the same time, if they need to look at me more in AAA, I'm good with that too. The important part is to keep a jersey in my back and continue playing and staying healthy.
Jim, appreciate the time. Good luck the rest of the way.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Gary, back to you.
And the interview with Jim Henderson, brought to you by Citi. He certainly was impressive for his inning of work today. What he showed today can play.
He absolutely can help this ball club.
Davis rips one to left. Krause isn't going to get to it. It goes back to the wall. Riddle on his way to third, and it'll be held up there. It's a double for Mason Davis. And the Marlins have second and third and 1 out.
Number 2 spot for the Marlins is pretty good today.
Yeah, 4 for 4. Perfect.
Marcelo Zuna had the first 3 hits, and now Mason Davis weighs in.
Well, the play's in front of the runner. You don't need now you pick up your third base coach, because now the play is behind you, but rounding second base, that's your call. Like to see the base runners take their own initiative.
So 2 in scoring position, and now Kenny Wilson will bat for the first time. Pinch ran, stayed in center field.
One of the differences in a game between the regular season, you might have the infield in here in a game where you're losing by a run.
So the reason you wouldn't bring the infield in is just to give the pitcher more of a cushion to try and get a ground ball out or something of that nature?
Results don't matter, win or loss. It's having the guys play their position, make the play.
Right.
Maybe later in the spring you play it.
Last week you definitely do it, yeah.
Well, especially when you've got a pitcher out there for the first time, I would think you just want him to be as comfortable as he could possibly be.
Well, there are times, I think maybe more than a week, Ron, maybe 10 days, 2 weeks, because you're going to have to bring the infield in the course of a season. You want your infielders getting familiar with playing it.
And it's also for the manager and his coaches to start thinking that way.
Of course, the Mets have a new bench coach this year in Dick Scott, so that's going to be an adjustment. Bob Guerin has moved on. He's with the Dodgers now.
Helping Dave Roberts, a first-year coach who has never coached anywhere, managed anywhere.
There's Dick sitting right next to Terry Collins. Dick has been in the Mets organization in a variety of roles. 2-2 now to Wilson.
Feels like that wind's kind of picking up here. Getting a little couple gusts in here.
Dick was the minor league field coordinator, same job that Terry Collins had before he became manager, then became the Mets director of player development the last 3 years. And now back in uniform. Nice bounce back for Belo as he strikes out Wilson for the second out.
Big strikeout.
Yeah, just a mini kind of thing in the middle of beginning of spring training, but Belo needed a strikeout there, and he got it. It's nice to see.
So now 2 out, and the former Met Zach Lutz will bat for the first time.
The lower you are on the pecking order as far as the depth chart of pitching and your chances of making the team, the result is that you have all of your pitches working. Fastball, curveball, slider, change. I remember we used to come to camp, and Eddie Lynch, one of our good friends, Keith and I's best friend, he would come with the camp with a backdoor slider ready for you on March 6th.
Yes, he would. Eddie always was a first-half pitcher. Sorry, Ed. You fell apart in the second half.
You were friends.
Had to took you out of the rotation, put you in the pen.
1-1 to Lutz. Well, we'll be back with you on Pix 11 on Sunday, and then back on SNY Monday from here at Tradition Field as Bartolo Colon makes a spring debut against the Tigers. Lutz takes inside. Zach Lutz had himself a star-crossed tenure as in the Mets organization. His very first game in the minor leagues, he broke his foot. He managed to make it to the big leagues for a couple of cups of coffee in 2012, 2013, but was never able to stick, and now trying for a new chance with Miami.
I just remember him always being in the minor leagues as a third baseman while David was at his peak.
Yeah, that's not it's not a real promising career path. Zach's now 29 years old. Played for his dad, Yogi Lutz, at Alvernia College, same school that produced the former Met Anthony Record, who is now with...
I don't know who he's with.
I just heard of this yesterday, and it has flown out of my brain.
Cleveland?
Yeah, I think that's right. Of course, now, Recker was the backup catcher for a couple of years, and now with Kevin Plawecki, who profiles as something more than a backup catcher, that creates an interesting conundrum for how much you use Plawecki behind Darno. And Lutz strikes out, so Dwayne Belo, after giving up a couple of ringing hits, responds with back-to-back strikeouts to keep the Marlins off the board. 7th inning stretch time. Time for a little refreshment. 3-2 Miami. Don't delay. Lock in your seats now to the biggest games of 2016 with a Mets ticket plan. Choose from a variety of plans that start at just 20 games and include potential 2016 postseason access. Visit Mets.com/plans or call 718-507-TIXX. Cody E.G. on to pitch. Travis Tyrone hits the first one out to right.
Oh, circle the wagons.
The right fielder Davis turned around, and now it's off to the races. Tyrone on his way to third. The throw coming in from Perez, not in time. And Travis Tyrone has himself a triple.
Well, Davis pretty much butchered this one up here. Wind blowing out. You got a 1-run lead late. You don't want a ball over your head, number one. And he gets turned around, and that wind just plays havoc with him.
And the wind has freshened up just over the last few minutes. Travis Tyrone, who had a big year at Vegas last year, 25 home runs, best of his minor league career. Triples are not a huge part of his game, but he has one. And now the infield comes in. Marlins are going to try and choke off the tying run. DJ Rivera has played the whole game at third. He drove in the first Med run with a 5th inning single.
Close play at third base. Closer than I thought it was going to be.
Look at his foot in the air.
Yeah, the foot in the air. We see a lot of that. Your foot's got to get straight in and right to that bag.
Especially now.
During the regular season, it'd be toast.
Yep. Hit hard and plucked out of the air. No, short hopped. And Lutz throws out Rivera for the first out. Tyrone holding at third. You know, I thought there might have been a chance that they were going to amend the replay rules involving coming off the bag on those close plays. But I guess there's no way to write the rule so that you know which plays apply and which plays don't. So we still have the circumstances now where if you hit the bag and your foot comes off for even the smallest of split seconds, you're still liable to be tagged out and ruled out on replay.
That barn door is open. No way to change it now.
Yeah, well. Infield all the way in for Ty Kelly, who has played the whole game. He had a run-scoring single in the 5th. Leazu was thrown out at the plate trying to score the tying run. And now Kelly has the tying run at third and 1 out.
Cody E.G., who's pitching here, was traded. Sam Dyson, remember the right-hander who did pitch a lot of games for the Marlins, was traded to the Texas Rangers. They got Tomas Talise and Cody E.G.
E.G. had a tremendous year in the minor leagues last year. Played for 4 different teams from A to AAA. 65 innings, 43 hits, 86 strikeouts.
Yeah, he's funky. He definitely is going to be a good situational lefty at some point.
Well, it's a situation that cries out for a strikeout if you're E.G. Kelly just trying to get the ball into play and get Tyrone home from third. And it goes to the backstop. Here comes Tyrone. The flip not in time, and the game is tied. Well, E.G. skimming one by Nieto. And the wild pitch brings in the tying run.
Nieto, when he went back there, he shoveled it underhand. He needed to fire it to give E.G. a chance at the tag.
It was strike 3 to Kelly. So that's the second out.
Wow.
So the Mets have tied it on a triple and a wild pitch. And now 2 out and nobody on. And Mark Krause will bat for the first time.
Does this kid look as big as he does on TV?
He's a big guy. We saw him with Houston a couple of years ago. Krause last year played with Tampa Bay and Detroit. Just a handful of at-bats.
Watch this. You can't throw it underhand. You got to fire it like an infielder.
Do you think the shortness of the distance there?
It doesn't matter, though, because you can't take the chance. You got to fire it and hope it clicks.
It's a tough play. Your play is you're rushed. You know it's going to be a close play at the plate. Your back's to the runner.
You know, it's a play we see more in baseball now than ever before because of the tightness of the backstop to home plate. Used to be it was so much further from the home plate to the backstop. Now you've got so many more ballparks where the ball will come off that back wall and come back pretty close to home plate. City Field certainly being one of those. Two and two to Krause, and he waves at the slider for strike 3, and that ends the inning. So the Mets tie it, a triple for Tyrone, then score on a wild pitch, and it's 3-3 after 7. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Discover Los Angeles, by Ram Truck Month going on now, by WB Mason, the official office supply company of the New York Mets, who bought WB Mason, and by Citi, proud sponsor of the New York Mets. We go to the 8th inning at Tradition Field in Port St. Lucie. And Chase Bradford will be the Mets' 7th pitcher of the afternoon. Dan Black, first pitch swinging. 1 pitch, 1 out.
Boy, that's a nice feeling for a pitcher. Come in and throw a little sinker and roll it over. Go sit down.
Well, Bradford is a guy who induces contact, and you can tell by his numbers in Vegas last year. 64 innings, only 14 walks and 46 strikeouts, 86 hits.
Yeah. Well, Vegas, tough place to pitch. 53 games, 5-4. 35th round pick for the Mets in 2011.
Vegas is probably a better place to pitch if you've got swing and miss stuff.
Yeah.
Everything in play there between the thin air and the hardness of the ground.
Yep. That whole Pacific Coast League, as well as the old California State League, where all the ball carried.
Tommy Medica at the plate, the former San Diego Padre, takes a strike.
Being the contrarian that I am sometimes, how about if you look at it this way? Maybe it matures you quickly as a pitcher, because you better get mature or you're going to get your lunch out there in Vegas. And not even at the table, so I'm talking about at the mound.
Well, I think you need to only look at Noah Syndergaard's arc in Vegas as Bradford strikes out Medica for the 2nd out. I mean, Syndergaard, the first half of 2014 really allowed the conditions to get to him there. Improved the second half of that year, and even more so when he went back to the beginning of last year, got himself big league ready.
Most improved young pitcher I've seen with the Mets since I've been doing this job. This is our 11th season. I can't believe it. Last year when I saw him in spring training, I would have said he needed a full year in AAA before he was brought up.
Perez lays one down. Rivera up with it quickly, throws him out. Couldn't be easier for Chase Bradford. He throws 5 pitches and has himself a 1-2-3 inning. Still 3-3. Mets all year long with a constant stream of up-to-the-minute spring training news, exclusive interviews, special features, and behind-the-scenes videos straight from Port St. Lucie on Mets blog, presented by Citi, featured on SNY.TV. Nefi Ogando made his big league debut with the Phillies last year on the pitch for Miami.
He started his career with the Boston Red Sox, traded for John McDonald, who's now retired, the infielder. Then made his debut, like you said, for the Fightin' Phils, and now here with the Marlins.
Matt Reynolds will lead off for the Mets in the bottom of the 8th. Mets were down 3-0, but they scored 2 in the 5th, 1 in the 7th. Reynolds grounded into a double play in his only at bat. Mets have used 7 pitchers. Ogando is the 6th pitcher to work for Miami. Reynolds takes a fastball for a strike. Michael Conforto, who had a couple of hits in the Mets spring opener yesterday against Washington, has come out on deck to bat for Cespedes in the DH spot. I think you could wake him up on Christmas Day and he'd hit a couple of line drives.
Could be our Moises Alou.
Well, he had a hit against Max Scherzer yesterday, which, you know, it had been a while since a Met had a hit against Max Scherzer. Having been no hit on the final weekend of the season.
Scherzer had 2 no-nos last year, right?
Mm-hmm. I think, what, the 5th ever to do that in the regular season? 2 no-hitters in a year. And the first since Nolan Ryan. Of course, that doesn't count Roy Halladay, who had 1 in the regular season and 1 in the postseason.
It's the Reds.
And the 1 in the regular season that year was a perfect game for Halladay. And Ogando falls behind 3-1. Justin Nicolino went 2 scoreless innings. So did Jose Urena for the Marlins. Tim Berry, Austin Price, Cody E.G., and now Nefi Ogando. Each team with 3 runs and 7 hits. Buddy Carlisle is getting ready in the Mets bullpen. Not sure if there's anybody left after Buddy, who will be the 8th Met pitcher of the day. Out to right field, and let's see if Davis can find this one, and he does barely. After misplaying Tyrone's ball into a triple in the last inning, the wind turned around a little bit since that triple, blowing a little more in from right field and made Davis's path a little easier.
Still a little too casual for my taste, but
especially after botching one.
Exactly.
2 circles and a dot. And now Conforto gets a nice hand as he steps into bat for Cespedes.
It's very interesting that they're putting a shift on Conforto.
They did that at the end of the year last year, some teams.
I don't understand it.
I don't. He goes the other way nicely.
He uses the whole field. He had a sharp base hit to left field yesterday. He got 1 hit off Scherzer and the other off Yusmeiro Petit yesterday up in Vieira.
Well, he looks strong. He looks like he's been pumping some iron this winter.
Just turned 23 years old this week. After 150 odd regular season at bats last year and 3 home runs in the postseason, you look at Conforto and you see a guy who could be a top of the line hitter. Pops this one up. And it's the third baseman, or actually the second baseman, Perez, who makes the catch.
Well, that's the next line, isn't it, Gary? We're talking about an organization that has been amazing in developing young pitching. And this is very streaky. So what the next streak is going to be how they develop these young players. Conforto, Dominic Smith, Brandon Nimmo, Cicchini.
Well, those were their first-round picks for 4 years running.
So that's
position players.
That's what you want to see.
3 high school guys and Conforto, who got there first because he was a college guy. But what's interesting as Dominic Smith steps in is that if you talk to Sandy Alderson, talk to Terry Collins, they're trying to tamp down expectations on Conforto. You know, they know how good he can be, but he also still has to prove it.
It's just about the magnitude of the New York media, how they can blow things out of proportion. And he's got a bright future. It's just as a ground ball to second. They just want to not put any more pressure on him that he has to do more than he needs to. Just get your base hits.
We're part of the media, you know.
I won't blow him out of proportion. He can hit.
go to the 9th inning. Mets and Marlins tied 3-3. And Buddy Carlisle, coming back from hip surgery that curtailed his year last year, will make an appearance.
Only 11 games for Buddy, but the year before was outstanding for a guy that literally, Garrett, was almost out of baseball.
Yep, and he did a tremendous job for the Mets, and now at age 38 trying to make yet another comeback. Adrian Nieto leading off in the 9th for Miami. Mets have Kyle Johnson in center field now, and they've moved Ty Kelly over to left. There's Johnson. And Carlisle, who generally comes in throwing strikes, falls behind 3-0. There's a strike.
Buddy doesn't mess around. Once he gets to that hip, he's coming. No delay.
And there's ball 4, and Nieto draws a leadoff walk. Well, there's your upcoming schedule, brought to you by WB Mason. Tomorrow the Mets head up to Kissimmee to play the Astros. We're back with you on Pix 11 Sunday when the Mets play the Braves. Monday it's the Mets and Tigers on SNY. Yankees are in Tuesday, Cardinals Wednesday.
Blowing up on those Tigres, Mr. Hernandez.
You know, Monday is going to be an awesome day for Met fans because it's a split squad day. And I have a challenge I'd like to lay out for a fan, if they're interested. This is KJ Woods dumping one into right for a base hit. Nieto's going to try for third. The throw by Tyrone is cut off, and the Marlins have the go-ahead run at third base. So KJ Woods, in his first at bat of the game, comes through with a base hit.
Down and in. You never want to stay away from that against left-handers. Garrett, what is the challenge for the fans, Garrett?
You're watching Nieto going first to third. So we'll have the game on TV from here on Monday, the Mets and Tigers.
Okay.
The radio guys are going down to Jupiter to do the Mets-Cardinals game. I would like to challenge any fan who cares to try to watch the game on TV, listen to the game on the radio, and keep a scorecard on both games. Johnny Manel makes the catch on the foul pop-up by Riddle for the first out. Do you think that's possible? Can anybody do that? Watch the game on TV, listen to the other game at the same time on the radio, and keep score of both games.
They'd have to turn us off the volume on the TV.
But they have to keep track of the changes, though, right? To keep a proper scorecard.
Oh, more importantly, have they told Howie he's going down to Jupiter?
No, he knows. Okay. Howie's looking forward to it. No, I don't know if it's Howie or if it's Wayne and Josh, but the radio guys will be down there. So. See, if you can do one game, can you do two at a time?
That'd be pretty cool.
Not get confused. I mean, I have enough trouble keeping score in spring training watching one game with all the changes.
Here. Mets playing back up for a double play. There's a scorekeeper right there. Very nice.
Nice looking score.
Yeah, very neat.
Mason Davis had a double in his only at bat. And he has had an adventure in right field as well.
That's something we could run. We're always looking to do something. We got the Kid Caster and all the other stuff. It'd be great to have people submit their cards of taking score, and we can do a little watch in the booth here and take a look and see who has the best scorecard.
It would be great,
right?
There's a call strike. 1-2. Well, was it last year or the year before we had a little seminar with Keith on how he keeps score and featured all of his colors.
It was one of the highlights of the season.
Carlisle could use a strikeout. Davis stays alive. Logan Verrett went the first 2 innings. He gave up a 2-run homer to Destin Hood. Akil Morris and Addison Reed each had a scoreless innings. Jerry Blevins gave up an unearned run. Jim Henderson, Dwayne Below, and Chase Bradford each threw a scoreless inning after that. And now Carlisle, the 8th Met pitcher of the day. Wind is really gusting in now from right field. It was blowing out that way earlier.
It's gotten chilly too. It's down to 73.
Cold front. Davis wastes away the changeup.
Yep, it's blowing.
'73 was 82 when the game began. Right?
Yeah.
It's almost like the deep freeze. 1-2, and he struck him out. There's a big strikeout for Buddy Carlisle as he gets Mason Davis for the second out.
Boy, that was a good slider. You know, Buddy, for the most part, throws mostly fastballs, but this one a good back foot slider. And the youngster could not lay off.
So, after the Marlins had first and third and nobody out, Carlisle 2/3 of the way home. And he'll take on Kenny Wilson, who struck out in his only at bat.
Johnny Manel's out there giving some signs. The signs are for what? Well, with 2 outs in case the Marlins try a little college play first and third, have the runner at first take off.
See, you call that the old college play. The thing you used to call the old high school play, you can't do that anymore.
No,
that's the fake to third, throw to first.
That's right. So you got to go
that out of the mix.
I'm straight to college now, much to the chagrin of most college coaches.
Well, we're less poorly educated than we used to be. Up the middle and a base hit, and the Marlins will regain the lead. So Kenny Wilson comes through with a 2-out hit. The A2 in to score 4-3 Miami in the ninth.
Well, those 2-out RBIs are the toughest ones to get. They're the ones that feel the best. From a hitter's point of view, nice hitting right there. Stayed in on a ball out belt high. Mid thigh out over the plate.
Now it's Zach Lutz, who struck out in his only at bat. And Carlisle gets ahead 0-2. Buddy Carlisle was one of those guys you root for.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, he's one of those guys that you have to tear the uniform off him.
Right.
And I really appreciate those guys. I don't have it in me. So I really admire those guys that say, you know what? I want to play as long as I can. Played in Japan, right?
Went everywhere he had to get back to the major leagues. After getting cups of coffee here, there, and everywhere. And finally stuck a couple of years ago with the Mets. 2-2 now to Lutz. Two on, 2 out, 2-2 to Lutz, and he lines one into left for a base hit. Woods to third. He's going to be waved around. The throw to the plate coming in from Kelly, and he's out by 20 feet. So Ty Kelly throws out K.J. Woods at the plate to prevent further damage, but Woods' base hit gives the Marlins the lead. And we head to the bottom of the ninth in Port St. Lucie, and all Johnny Manel has to do is wait. Get to Citi Field Saturday night, April 9th, when the Mets take on the Phillies for the first fireworks night of 2016, presented by Coca-Cola. After the game, fans can enjoy an exciting fireworks show that will light up the sky. For tickets, visit Mets.com/fireworks. Craig Stem, in his second year in the Miami organization, will try and close it out in the bottom of the ninth with the Mets down 4-3. Dilson Herrera leading off at a base hit in his only at bat. And he skies one to deep left field. Back goes Medica, back near the wall, and he crashes into the fence. The ball is in play. It rolls to the foul line. Herrera's going to be waved around by Tuffle, and Dilson Herrera has an inside the park home run to tie the game. To hit him out of the park and enough speed to circle the bases on an inside the park home run.
Well, very difficult playing today with a lot of wind right now, and outfielders not playing deep, protecting a one-run lead. And Dilson hustling here. Well, not really. He kind of turns the jets on.
Seems like the last time I watched the game, someone kicked the ball into the corner and ended up with an inside park home run.
That was the first pitch of the game. There's Johnny Manel driving one to deep right center, but this one will get hung up in the wind, and Davis goes over to get it. And so Manel is retired for the first out.
Well, the head first slide, no one there to help him. Look at the bat still there. What's the guy in the on-deck circle supposed to do? You got to help out your teammate.
Dilson Herrera tying it with an inside the park home run. There's nobody warming up in the Mets bullpen, which means that if the Mets fail to win it here in the bottom of the ninth, we may be done, unless they're going to send Carlisle out for a second inning, which I can't imagine they would. Travis Tyrone tripled and scored a run in the seventh inning. That tied the game at the time at 3, and now Herrera's inside the park home run has tied it at 4.
That being said, if there are anyone in spring training on the Mets roster that could go out there for a second inning, that's not a starting pitcher, it would be Buddy Carlisle.
And Tyrone takes a strike. Well, Travis Tyrone is a big right-handed slugger who had 25 home runs at AAA last year. So with the ball carrying well to left right now, might be able to end it with one big swing. Stem keeps it in the dirt, and it's 2-2.
This crowd has been into it from the first pitch, haven't they?
Over 7,000 a sellout today. Now tied inside, 3-2. TJ Rivera is on deck. Three-2 from Stem to Tyrone, and he struck him out for the second out. Youth sports, creating memories, friendships, and changing lives. SNY's Play Ball program is looking to help local leagues in need of grants, equipment donations, and special clinics. If you know a local youth baseball or softball league in need, apply today at facebook.com/SNY. Now it's TJ Rivera, who's 1 for 3, singled and a run in the 5th. And he takes a breaking ball for a strike from Stem. Mets were down 3-0 and tied it. They were down 4-3 coming about here in the bottom of the ninth, but Dilson Herrera's inside the park home run tied it again. Normally the managers will indicate to each other whether they have any pitchers left and whether they want to go beyond 9. Didn't see whether Terry communicated with Tim Wallach on that. We'll find out momentarily, though, if Mets are unable to score here, whether we will play extra innings or stop after 9. 1-2 coming. Got him looking, and the inning is over. And the game is over.
Yes.
So there's the indication from Terry, the bye-bye sign, and so we will finish this afternoon in a 4-4 tie. So the Mets, in their first home exhibition game, play a 4-4 tie with the Miami Marlins. Dilson Herrera's inside the park home run ties it in the bottom of the ninth. A sellout crowd at Tradition Field, enjoying the Mets' first outing of the spring on home turf. You see the numbers on this afternoon's game. Mets got some good relief outings today, particularly from Jim Henderson.
I thought Henderson looked great. Of all the pitchers out there, I thought he looked fantastic. Dwayne Velo got himself into some trouble, but came through with a couple of strikeouts. On the pitching side, that was pretty good for the Mets. Logan Verrett, who started, gave up a couple runs in 2 innings, but his control was good.
And from the offensive standpoint, 8 hits by the Mets today. They're out hit 10-8, but Herrera, who I like, a youngster at 22, 2 for 2 today with the home run in the 9th, the inside the park home run. He's the big bright spot offensively.
So the Mets and Marlins play to a 4-4 tie. And we'll come back and wrap things up from Port St. Lucie in just a moment.